Hi, it's Mark from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here with Vancouver DJ extraordinaire, Mr. Gary Waight of DJ Boogie Shoes. I almost got that backwards. Gary Waight of DJ Boogie Shoes. How are you doing today, Gary?
I'm doing very well, Mark, and Happy New Year to all everyone out there. It's been a great Christmas and New Year.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about wedding music and organization, timing for wedding receptions. How does that work?
Well, of course, many brides and grooms, the majority of brides and grooms have never done a wedding before, although they've been to a few. And so lots of times they're lost as to the organization. How does it go? Where does one song go? What comes first? What comes last? Where did the thing go? So what I have in my services is that I actually have a 16-point checklist that helps you take you very to the beginning of that and helps you organize all that. So today I thought I'd go through it a little bit and kind of give you more of an idea of how that actually works. And one of the first things at your wedding reception, which usually begins after you have done your ceremony, and the bride and groom have gone away and they've done they're doing their photos, and while the guests are back at the venue, and we have starts it with the cocktail hour, and the cocktail hour is an hour area when the guests come in, and they'll mull about, and they'll talk to maybe relatives they haven't seen before, or perhaps friends they haven't seen before, and sometimes the brides and grooms actually hire an additional service for that. I mean, I've been to cocktail hours where they've actually had salsa instructors come in and they've taught some salsa dances. And I've had magicians come in, and just to kind of keep the guests occupied. But more often than not, it's just a mingling of the crowd where they talk and they get together. And that's usually an hour or so before the entrance of the main bride and groom come in. Now, the entrance where the main bridal party comes in first, and then the bride and groom come in, and your MC will announce the bridesmaids and the grooms, and then not the grooms, but the best men, and then, of course, the height of the hour, the bride and groom will be introduced and they come in, and there's normally a special song for that. And next time we'll talk about what kind of songs you could choose, but normally there's a song that goes in for that, and that's your entrance. And then from the entrance, the MC normally makes a little speech where he makes some announcements, some maybe notes that are important for the venue or for the guest type of thing. But I've also had, right after the entrance of the bride and groom, some brides and grooms have actually done their first dance when they've come in. That depends a lot on how long you have your photographer, but that is an option. I've had bride and grooms come in and do the first dance just after their entrance. So that is an option, and that can be put in there as well. So there's no hard and fast rule about that, so it can be done. And then normally we'll get into dinner, the dinner hour, and of course there's dinner music that we have in for that, and you want to pick a nice genre of music that suits your ambience and what you're looking for at that time. And then after dinner, you normally have the speeches, and the speeches happen after dinner because a lot of the people in the audience, your guests, are hungry. It's been a long day for everybody, and they're hungry, and having the speeches before dinner delays that dinner and even makes them more ravenous, and that's not a good thing when you have 100 guests there. And so the speeches normally come right after dinner, and if you have the speeches during dinner, as that has happened, lots of times people will not listen to the speeches. They'll be eating, they'll be talking, so that's another thing you have to think about. And after dinner, and the speeches, there's usually a little break, and then they'll have the cake cutting. And of course, the cake cutting is one of the main highlights of the event as well, where the bride and groom go over and cut the cake, and all of the people take pictures of that, just a remembrance of that. And there again, a special song for your cake cutting, depending upon whether you're a fun couple, a more romantic couple, or whatever ambience there again you want to put forward. And then there's usually a little break there where everyone kind of gets a drink and everything, and we get into the first dance. First dances normally happen on a 7-hour event around 9:30ish, something like that. It's a good time to do that. And so you start out with the first dance, and it's usually you and your husband, and then you may want a second dance with the father of the groom, father of the bride, I should say, and the mother of the groom. And sometimes they combine this dance together, and sometimes they'll make them two separate dances. So I can offer suggestions on songs that go well for that type of for those dances there. One thing you might want to think about is to kind of keep the first dances down to a minimum. If you get more than a couple, three first dances, it does get a little bit boring for the guests, and it kind of drags on. So that's a consideration you might want to think about. Just kind of keeping your first dances to a to a nice minimum, or a nice area where people can get pictures and have the remembrance there. But you don't want to make them getting to 3 and 4 first dance type things. And there again, like I said, some brides and grooms do that to the entrance, depending upon how long you have your photographer as to what time you want to do that. And then dancing. We get into dancing normally right after your first dances. People are up on the dance floor. It's good to get into the first dance and have a song that the bride and groom really like to dance to, and invite everybody up to dance. That's a good way to get it started. And you want to keep your announcements during your dancing hour to a minimum. If you have lots of announcements while your dancing is happening, it will tend to kill the dancing and send people off the dance floor, and it'll be harder to get them back on. So you do want to keep your announcements to a minimum. And after about an hour into the dancing, we do the bouquet toss and the garter toss. Normally the bouquet toss is done first, and then the bride gets the single ladies up, and there's a song that goes to that as well. There's a little bit of a campy thing we can do as well, and then right after the bouquet toss, you get a chair out, and the garter toss happens. There's a little strategic thing that we can do that. We can show you that how to do that as well, but that's normally the way it goes. And then normally about half an hour before the end of the dance, we have last call for alcohol, and so people can top up and get ready. That we're coming down to the last half hour, and generally after that, the last song happens around 10 minutes before the end of the event. Is a good time to do the last song. Sometimes the bride and groom want the last song that they like to have, and we'll do that. Sometimes they just let us pick it, but normally 10 minutes before. The reason why, if you do your last song about 10 minutes before, you got 5 minutes in there where you have a grace period. If the crowd wants to have one more song, then there's time for that. If you go right up to the contracted hour, then you don't have time for an encore, and it kind of sometimes can leave the crowd a little flat. So it's always good to kind of get your last song in 10 minutes before, and then also sometimes that works in well, because some venues have strict shutdown hours. Some venues say 12 o'clock it has to be shut down, period. So like I said, you want to work that last dance kind of into that time frame and to that schedule to do that as well. So generally that is the organization of the reception, and that's the way it goes.
Awesome. So that's when someone contracts with you, you give them a checklist that basically walks them through all these items?
Yeah, all through these items, and the scheduling, and what songs would work well with the suggestions if they don't have their own suggestions. But it organizes it for them in a way that is very simple, and they can see how it's done. We have it in a hard copy for them and a hard copy for us, so everybody's basically on the same page.
Great. So we've been talking with Vancouver's own DJ extraordinaire, Mr. Gary Waight of djboogieshoes.com. You can give him a call at 604-816-7727 to book him for your wedding. Remember, your wedding music will be the thing that people actually remember about your wedding more than just about anything else. So if you want to leave them with a great memory of your most important event, this is a place to invest some extra money. Thanks a lot, Gary.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.